Grenade attacks in Central African Republic capital killed at least 2 people late on Wednesday in a rare incident of violence in Bangui. The United Nations and residents both say men on motorbikes tossed grenades into crowds gathered in 3 different places in southern Bangui during the evening. Now, a civil war in the Central African Republic has had serious consequences on the children there. According to a new report by the organization Watchlist on Children and Armed Conflict, armed groups in the C.A.R. have attacked schools, students and teachers. The armed groups and international peacekeeping forces have used schools as bases for their activities. Now, for more details on the report, Janine Morna of a researcher with Watchlist joins me from our UN studio in New York. Janine, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, here's the question. You have spoken to quite a number of people in preparing this report. How widespread did you establish this problem is in C.A.R.?
Well, a recent education cluster assessment was taken in April 2015 of this year, and they found that about 29.6% of the schools have been attacked over the course of the recent conflict, and about 8.4% have been used by armed groups and, on occasion, international peacekeeping forces as well for their operations.
Now, what are some of the stories that you got out of this research, some of the atrocities that have been committed in those schools?
Well, there are a number of ways in which schools have been affected. I think first and foremost, schools have been looted very, very severely. Sometimes armed groups will come into schools and strip them completely bare. They'll take the desks, the chairs, the roofs, the doors. And this really, I think, requires a lot of rehabilitation at the moment. Another way in which schools have been affected is that a lot of teachers and students now live in very close proximity to armed groups and international forces. And oftentimes, when students and teachers are coming to and from school, it results in a situation where they're threatened by armed groups. And sometimes armed groups interfere directly with the way in which a school operates. So perhaps an example for you is we visited a school in Kagabandoro in northern Central African Republic, and a school director there had built some ditches across a playground to prevent members from the ex-Seleka armed group who lived near the school driving across the school playground. And when one of the commanders saw this, he entered the classroom with a machete and threatened to decapitate the teacher in front of his students. So there are also those kinds of cases as well.
Now,
the third and primary way in which...
Go ahead.
Oh, and I guess the third and primary way in which schools have been affected is armed groups have also used the schools as a base for their lodging or for a number of their operations, meetings, things like that. And international peacekeepers, and having to stabilize some of the areas, have also had to use these facilities for their logistics.
Very quickly, given that all sides have used these schools, is this a common practice in that country or other conflict areas, or is this a unique case in the C.A.R.?
No, attacks on schools and military use of schools is actually quite prevalent in a number of conflict countries. And we're trying to just highlight the implications of this particular practice on the difficulties it makes children who need to go to school access education. And education is a very important part of countries' transition to peace. But it is actually a widespread practice that has been documented in a number of other different countries and conflict contexts like Syria, Nigeria, the DRC, a lot of other countries.
Well, thank you very much. We really hope that somebody will take care of these kids. Janine Morna, a researcher with Watchlist on Children and Armed Conflict, joining us live from our UN studio in New York.